Hello, in today's video we're going to be solving quadratic equations. Let's start off with something really straightforward. Okay, so just a times b equals 0. So in this case, I just want to figure out what values of a and b will make this hold true, where a times b is 0. So take a look at it for a second. Hopefully you see it, that either a or b has to be 0. So think about the things that it could be. So if a was 3, the only way you're going to get 0 is if the number inside this bracket is 0. And likewise the other way, if this was 5, the only way that you're going to get 0 is if this bracket is 0. Okay, so in this case a equals 0 or b equals 0. One or the other. I don't know which, but I know one of them has to be. Okay, so let's look at something a little bit more complicated now. What if we have a quadratic relationship written in factored form? So we have x plus 3 times x minus 7. And we're going to nail down this quadratic relation right at 0. So we're looking at where the y value is 0. Or, likewise, if we let y equals 0, then the solutions will be x-intercepts. So that's just kind of a side to keep thinking about the parabola or the quadratic as a parabola. So now, what we know is we have this number, whatever that ends up being, times this number having to be equal to 0. Well, the only way, we just discovered, right? The only way that you can get 0 is if one of the two numbers is 0. So let's just split this up and let's just say x plus 3 equals 0 or x minus 7 equals 0. So x equals minus 3 or x equals positive 7. So there are two solutions here. So therefore, there are two solutions in which x equals minus 3 or x equals 7. Okay, so now if we had something that wasn't written in such a convenient form, this was only easy because it was written like this. If we had something that instead was written like this, so let's do another example. Solve for x. So if we have 6x squared minus 15x minus 36, and that's equal to 0. Well, now we don't have numbers just multiplying each other, and so in order to accomplish this, we have to put it in a form where numbers are just multiplying each other. So how do we do that? We factor. So let's give this a go. So the first thing we need to do is look for something in common. Well, a number that divides evenly into each of these would be 3, so that's a common factor. And we don't have an x or anything to share, so all we have to do now is think about what do we have to multiply the 3 by to get back the 6x squared? Well, that'd be 2x squared. What do we have to multiply the 3 by to get minus 15 is, well, that's going to be minus 5x. And this will be minus 12. All this equals 0. Okay, now there's no more common factors, so what we're going to have to do is do decomposition. We need to split up this minus 5 into two choices that will make it so we can factor by grouping. And the only way we can make that decision right is by looking for two numbers that multiply together to be whatever these two multiplied together give you. So that's 2 times minus 12, which is minus 24, and add together to give you minus 5. Okay, so I'll just write down some factors of 24. So 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 6 and 4. And I know I have to deal with the positives and negatives, but you can tell that the only ones that could add together to give you 5 are these two. So I'm just going to write those down. So 3x and 8x. And I know I want minus 5. So I'm going to have to subtract 8 from 3 to get minus 5. I still have the 12, I still have the 2x squared, and I still have that 3 in front. Now we're going to keep going. Just going to write a little square bracket here, because I'm going to use that in a second. In fact, I'm just going to get rid of that round bracket for now. Just use the square bracket here. Now I'm looking for something that these share in common. Well, that's just going to be an x. So now I have 2x plus 3 left over. Over here, it looks like I can take out a minus 4. That leaves me with 2x plus 3 again. Remember, this will always work out perfectly as long as you made the right choice here. Make the right choice there, and you'll always end up with the same binomial factor here. So when I factor out that binomial factor, because it's in common between the two, I end up with 3 times 2x plus 3 times x minus 4 equals 0. And I'm just going to drop the square bracket now. It's just nice to have it there to keep me organized, but I don't need it anymore because it doesn't actually matter what order you multiply in. Okay, so now we take a look down here, and we know one of the 3 things that's being multiplied has to be 0. So 3 certainly can't be equal to 0, so we don't have to worry about the 3. One of these other 2 factors have to be equal to 0. So 2x plus 3 equals 0, or x minus 4 equals 0. I'm going to split them up, and we've got 2x is equal to minus 3, so x is equal to minus 3 over 2. And over here we've got x equals 4. So there's our 2 solutions. So therefore, x equals minus 3 over 2, or x equals 4. Now there's a bunch of twists and turns along the way. They're going to, the questions that you'll be presented with might have to have you rearrange into certain forms, or there might be word problems dealing with this. But these are the basics, and I think that you can get started.